Hi everyone, welcome to I'm Recruiter. I'm your host Prafulla Deori. I'm Recruiter is a community created by and for talent acquisition professionals. Our vision is to build a leading global community for TA professionals, and our mission is to help TA professionals grow from traditional recruiter to a trusted talent advisor. If you find our content useful, please support us by liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting on our channel. Just get ready to get inspired because we have someone very special today in our podcast. Today, we have an incredible Junaid joining us with 50 years of experience in design. Junaid's journey has taken him from a giant like Adobe, Oracle to co-founding his own edtech startup, MyChat Lesson. But that is not all. He is also a certified life design coach, author, and one of the few certified life designers from Stanford in India. Let's deep dive and learn from his incredible insights. So, welcome, Junaid.
Thank you so much for having me, Praful. Really honored to be on your podcast.
So, can you quickly brief a little bit about your background, Junaid, before we start?
Sure. I'm a localite. I'm a Bangalorean who I've lived here most of my life, except for some higher education and work. I have an undergrad in electrical engineering. After that, I went on to do a master's in electrical engineering and a master's in psychology as well. So with a specialization in human factors, which is more popular as human-computer interaction user experience. So since then, I have been working in the design field. I have worked with some of the top names such as Adobe, Oracle, IBM, ABB. I also am a startup co-founder. I have a startup, MyChat Lesson, in the edtech space. I also love to teach. I have regularly taught at institutions, big names such as IT Delhi, I am Indore, I am Lucknow, Srishti Manipal, those things. And I'm also a Stanford life design educator for universities and a Designing Your Life certified coach. This is coming from Stanford's Life Design Lab, which is part of the Stanford D School. So I'm one of the very few handful of individuals who have been trained in India about the life design framework and how I could help individuals, students, working professionals in their life, both professional and personal. So that's about me.
Sure. Great to know that, Junaid. Great. So, I have few very interesting questions for you because many of us feel very much passionate about lots of different things, but you have done lots of different things in your life. So, these questions will be mostly around those, right? So, one question which I have for you is you had a very awesome career, right? From engineering to psychology to design, and now starting your own tech firm. Was there any pivotal moment or experience that sparked the journey of exploration in your life, Junaid?
So for me, I think the pivotal moment was around the time I finished my engineering. After I finished, until then, I was like just going with the flow. You know, in those days, if you're not an engineering graduate or a doctor, people don't have much value for you and all of that. So, but after I finished engineering, I was like, what do I do with the rest of my life, right? So then around that time, I got interested in psychology. For me, psychology and the human mind was a bigger challenge to figure out than any of the electrical machines, right? So then I was like, what do I do? So around that time, 99, 2000, I don't know how many of you were born or remember that time. There were a lot of these cyber cafes which had opened up. And
Yes.
I went into one of these cyber cafes and I opened my first email, you know, right, how all this first things happen. Then I typed in Google, I typed engineering plus psychology. Then there's a graduate program, master's program in engineering psychology, which showed up in the search results. This was in Georgia Tech. I was like, I mean, there is a program for people like us who want to study psychology after engineering, and it's called engineering psychology and all that. So I wrote my GRE, applied and didn't get in, but I knew that I was like, I want to go down that path because I knew that there is a path, right? So there's a path for people like me who wanted to study psychology after engineering. So anyway, so that's how I think that was the pivotal moment of my life where I understood that, okay, there is more to life. There is something which you can pursue, something which you can achieve and get. I mean, you need to understand what direction you want to head in. And along the way, I mean, though you wouldn't have the complete information, once you get your direction, once you get your compass right, you would be able to find your way once
Yeah.
you go along that path.
Great, Junaid. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, my next question for you is many people generally feel pressure to stick to one career path. Right?
Right.
What advice would you give to those people who feel drawn to multiple fields or are considering a career change?
So advice is, I mean, you're not stuck, right? So you always have options. So we all have been given brains. We all can ideate. We all can think of options. And if you want to explore alternate career paths, right? So my advice wouldn't be to jump in right away. So explore. For example, right? If somebody is in a IT profession, he loves to open a restaurant, right? So I wouldn't advise them to jump into opening a restaurant right away. Take those small steps. Start a catering business first. You cater to two people, three people, see how it feels, whether you like it, or you can maybe during the weekends work at a hotel, right? Work at a restaurant, maybe as an intern, or you just like sit there next to the owner, go and sit in the kitchen, help these people out. So start with these small steps and see how it goes. Then you can start spending more hours if you like it. By that time, you will be more informed. And while you are at the restaurant, you can still talk to the owner, understand his day-to-day life. What are the good things he likes about it? What are the not so good things, where the hurdles he faces? And if you are willing to take up those, if you're willing to live with those hurdles, difficulties, then I think you should be able to take the next set of steps. So in every career, it's not every career is rosy, right? So there is always some difficulties and all of that. So it's actually about what you are willing to suffer through. That should be able to help with your decision. If you are able to suffer through all the rigors of running a restaurant, then yeah, okay, then maybe you should go ahead and take the next step. But be informed, generate options, talk to people, do internships, do some small, spend some time there, and only then you'll be able to figure out if this will work for you or.
Thank you so much, Junaid. So next question what I have is like, what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced in transitioning between such different fields, and how did you overcome those?
So I
That
think the
question,
biggest,
the reason why I'm
yeah,
asking, many
sure,
people think of doing that, right?
right,
But we are so much stuck with lots of family pressure, peer
right,
pressure, like comfort zone, right?
right.
So definitely when we hear lots of stories similar like you, we might get motivated. Individuals might get motivated. So that is the reason behind I'm asking this question.
So I think for me, the biggest challenge is convincing myself, right? So like how, I mean, of course, I have a family, I have people who are dependent on me. In fact, my wife is a PhD actually. So she did postdoc at ISC. So she's a professor now. So in terms of money, we were like not in such a bad situation if I take a big risk. At least there is income coming in from that side. But most important, it's about my mind, right? It's for me, okay, should I take such a big risk? Should I? So then again, as I said, right, we need to try out these small steps. So when I came across the live design program, for example, right? So I read the book, I got the certifications. Then I did a small workshop at Srishti. I didn't know whether it would work in India because it's coming from Stanford. It works at Stanford and it's been well established in US, but I didn't know it worked in India, whether I would be able to deliver it the way it should be delivered and all of that, right? So I did a small workshop and the feedback I got from the students was really awesome. And I mean, it what for them, it was it influenced them a lot. It impacted them a lot. And it was like, man, this is something which is really worthwhile. And it's coming from Stanford. It's not coming from some Baba sitting somewhere giving GAN, right? So it's a well-established scientific method. So that helped me make those decisions that, okay, Junaid, at least worst case, I won't be out on the street begging, right? So there is a support system in place. There is family in place. So worst case, I won't be out begging on the streets, or I won't be going without food or a roof above my head. So once that is taken care of, I mean, we can live through anything else possibly, right? So that's what helped me make those decisions to take these small steps to transition into life design or starting my own startup. So I think that answers your question, I hope.
Definitely, first is convincing ourselves, right? Which is
Exactly.
definitely the hard thing. And
Yes.
once you convince ourselves, like how did you also convince your family? Because you have a family,
Yeah.
definitely your wife is working, but again, some part of responsibilities are shared between you and your wife, right?
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
when you plan to do something different, the monthly flow of money will get
Correct.
decreased,
Correct.
right? For the initial time when you start something new, right?
Correct.
So how did you convince your family as well?
So yeah, I mean, we looked at our savings, kind of income which was coming in, and we assessed the risk, the ratio, and like it came down to, okay, if I don't try to do this now, right, when would I do it, right? So we had that kind of savings, and it was possible that okay, we could jump in full time, and even the other part of it, right, it necessitated me to try doing these things. The circumstances shaped up in a way which said, okay, this is, I mean, you have to do this. This is the best option for you now. So yeah, just take the plunge and all of that. So even the circumstances helped. And the three, four things came together that way. And then which helped me make the decision to go forward.
Sure. So the next question which I have for you is, Junaid, you have worked with major companies like Adobe, Oracle, right? How was your experience shape your approach to design and to
Uh-huh.
entrepreneurship, right? So initially you were into like designing space, then now moving to entrepreneurship space. So
Right.
how these companies have shaped you?
So one thing is about professionalism, right? So all these working at these big companies have taught me about professionalism, about showing up every single day, right? No matter what, right? You show up, you do your job because there are other dependencies on you. Of course, have grown along with these companies, right? So there were skills which I have picked up while I was working with these companies, which I didn't have earlier, right? So for example, one of the skills, new tools like Adobe XD, which I have picked up, all those I didn't know while before I join these companies. So the new skills, professionalism, how do you handle pressure? How do you present at meetings? How do you carry yourself? All those things are learnings which you pick up from these companies, and then you take it forward in life.
Got it. Definitely. So when you have done your education in engineering, then psychology, then how you ended up in design world?
I get this question very often actually. The background, right? The education background is in psychology. So the specialization is human factors psychology. Human factors is how humans like interact with technology and use technology and what are the errors they make and how do you overcome these errors. So it's not about the traditional psychology which we think of. It's not about psychoanalysis. It's not about Sigmund Freud. I never studied Freud actually. So in my specialization, so it's all about human computer interaction and and the user experience design which you hear about now is a subset of this human computer interaction. So it's all connected. It's not like I have shifted from psychology to like technology and all that. So I studied human factors, which is how humans interact with technology and machines and all of that. So it wasn't a shift. So tied in. And plus I had a engineering background. So it wasn't like a major thing. So maybe for people who study traditional psychology, they might find it very difficult to understand and relate and work with engineers and technical people. But for me, it was not a big deal at all.
But just to, I definitely understand the overview of psychology and the design related stuff. But
Right.
when we see people, when we talk to people, when as a recruiter, when I hire people, to design is something different what we see.
Right.
So in that particular terms, right, how did you started your career in design, right? Definitely
Design.
psychology is there, but again, like you definitely need to have some certain tools expertise, some
Right.
certain software expertise as well. So how did you
Okay.
started the journey?
So I actually started in design research doesn't require you to build, how do you say, applications. That was not what I started in. So I started with design research, which is mainly about how do you talk to people, observe people in their environments, how do they use tools, how do they use technology, how do they interact with whatever is there in their environment to get them to do their work, right? So that was what I started off with. Then along the way, I picked up these design tools to design applications and all of that. So I picked it up along the way. So that was, but my entry point into the whole design space was design research, user research, and all of that. So, for example, right, I worked on a project this is way back in 2005, 2006. How do you, for example, in a court, right, in a court of law, there are a lot of documents which people have to sign, right? So, how do you onboard it so that it is all digital now? Okay, and at what points do we offboard it so that again signing happens? Then again you onboard it. So we had to study the sequence and how do we it was called paper-based workflows. How do we reduce these paper-based workflows so that a lot of things get digital and whenever required, we offboard it and make it those, I mean, if any signature is required and all of that. Now we have digital signatures and all of that, but at that point of time, we didn't. So it was a lot of these paper-based workflows. How do we reduce it and all of that? So that's an example of one of the projects which I initially worked.
Yes. And what about your transition from designer to an entrepreneurship? Like, and
Right.
that to in the edtech space? Like,
Tech
what
space.
have made you realize that edtech space, I should start my own entrepreneurship or company?
Okay. So, I mean, there's two ways to do this, right? So one thing is you say, I want to do this in this space and all of that. The second part is things organically happen, right? So for example, while I was with Oracle, I worked on a project in the conversation design space. So it was about chatbots. How do you like enable chatbots to do this enterprise kind of a thing where you help organizations with their workflow and all of that. So at Adobe, I worked on a learning management system. So then around that time, the pandemic happened and I have a teenage son and I had to buy him a phone and all of that. So while I observed him use the phone, right, he never used to call and talk to a lot of people. He used to chat. And I don't know if you have observed teenagers, right? So you put them in a group and they're on the phone chatting, right? They're trying to include somebody else who's not in the group and everybody's chatting. So then I thought, okay. And plus, I have written a couple of novels actually. My second novel is completely in email conversations. So it's again about conversations there. So then I got that all together and said, why can't we deliver learning content in the form of conversations, chats? It's chat stories. So the chat story concept is imagine there are two people chatting. Third person will read these chats and there is a story for them right there in these chats itself. So there are plenty of chat story apps actually. If you go and search for chat stories, there are plenty of apps which show up. But there was a space where I thought, okay, why can't we deliver learning content in the form of these chat stories? Because for these kids, right, they're so used to their phones now and they're so used to chatting now and all of that. So then I started out small. I said, okay, let's make a prototype. Let's get feedback, show it to people. And I did just that. So I made a prototype. I said, hey, this is the concept. What do you think of it? And I mean, there are people who liked it. Said, okay, fine. I mean, it's the response was positive. Then I took some small steps, small steps. Then I found a team to work with, and then we launched the app with actually 9 CBSE first because my son was studying in 9 CBSE at that time. So because I had a subject to experiment with right at home, then now we have lessons for 8th, 9th, 10th, CBSE, ICSE, and Karnataka State Board. All the lessons are in the app. The app is called MyChat Lesson. So we deliver learning content in the form of chat stories. And one very important thing, right? So what is the advantage of studying through chat stories? So there is research says that by studying this way, it uses a method called micro learning, where you learn in small bits. So research says that the engagement is 2.5 times higher than your traditional learning. So you take up a textbook. I mean, you would have seen kids, right? As soon as they start studying from the textbook, they'll be yawning. We have done that ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
So how do you increase this engagement, right? So my chat lesson enables this engagement to be higher. And another thing is, imagine you study through notes or textbooks. A lot of people forget everything, right? So some of the parents are like, you're studying the whole time, but you don't remember anything when I ask you. So my chat lesson enables people to remember better, 40% better. And it's not what I am saying, it's what the research says. So that's the advantage. That's because of the science behind it. It further convinced me to dive into this because it's a clear advantage for kids, right? So yeah,
Okay.
that's about
So
my journey.
regarding your project or like that product which you have built, right,
Right.
in the edtech space, like is it completely bootstrapped or like you have raised fund as well?
It's completely bootstrapped. So me and my co-founders have put in our own effort and sweat equity, as you call it, and put our own money to bring it up so far. So we have tried for funding, but the edtech space is going through a tough time in terms of getting funds right now. So I mean, it's ours is not an AI driven product. So we will be using AI to further enhance the experience. But the main thing is about how the content is and how the content is delivered. The content has to be engaging, and the content enables higher engagement, higher retention rates. So all of that is the USP of our product. Everybody wants to say that, okay, everything has to be AI driven AI. So I'm like, I mean, doesn't necessarily have to be like that, right? So we can make a simple product which has specific advantages and still, so we've got about 1700 downloads so far. So the other aspect of it is it's about the screen time aspect, right? Parents are worried about, okay, kids are spending more screen time now. So now the flip side to it is, but it's good time spent, right? They're like learning from it instead of just scrolling on social media or wasting their time. They're at least learning something from it, right? So, and it's a quick read. You don't have to be stuck to a book or a laptop to study. You can study from anywhere, right? So those are some of the use cases which my product addresses.
So have you also thought about like partnering with some of the incubation center as well, so that you find more support and more mentors, more funding support as well?
Yeah, I've written, but nothing has worked out for mutual benefit, right? So we have to see if, okay, it should not be just about us or it should be just about them. So we have tried, but it's just not matched that way.
Okay. Now talking about your life design related thing which
Sure.
you have moved or transitioned, right? So for those who are not familiar with life design, could you also explain to them what exactly life design means in simple way? Because when I heard or anyone in India not much
Correct.
familiar, you already know
Yeah.
because you are a trainer, right? You have
Right.
also seen hardly few trainers are there, so you can understand how many people really will understand about this particular topic.
Sure. So I'll tell you how I got into it so that you will understand. I mean, you'll be able to understand more about what life design is. So while I was I used to do a lot of workshops on creativity, right? Creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship, those kind of things. So then one part of this creativity is also about creating your life, right? So with every decision you make, every conversation you have, every place you travel or whatever, right? So it is you're literally creating your life step by step. So I used to teach that part of it as well in my workshops. So then pandemic happened and we were all stuck at home and literally I used to save 2 to 3 hours in travel every day. So then I got an opportunity to write about this because I have this extra time and I couldn't go anywhere outside, right? So I started writing the book, Creating Your Life in 101 Steps. I published it already, so I started to put it together. So then I came across this book, Designing Your Life. It's about the same thing, right? In a way, so you create your life. Literally, you are designing. I mean, and it's coming from Stanford Design School. So what these professors at Stanford Design School, Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, one day they came together and they thought design is being used to solve a lot of problems in this world, right? Why can't it solve the problem of human beings, right? How do they plan their lives? How do they figure out what next in their professional career? All of that. So they came up with a framework, a whole set of methods and processes and all of that. And it's changed thousands of lives. So in fact, there are more than 450 universities across the world who have these life design programs. They conduct courses, they conduct workshops, they do one-on-one coaching with students. So for example, right, at a university in Ohio, I forget the name. The university has about like 20 life design educators, and the heading them is a director of life design. Okay. And every student who comes into the university is assigned one life design educator who is able to help that student with their life and career and planning and all of that. Of course, they do courses, they do workshops and all of that. But this is at that level. Imagine having a director of life design. There are like about 20 life design educators under them, and all the students who are coming in have this. So it's gone to that level. And then the professors at Stanford, right, they thought, okay, why don't we think about expanding it, right? So why don't we look at it for professional lives as well? So then they wrote a second book, Designing Your Work Life. The first book was Designing Your Life, and the second book was Designing Your Work Life. It was about for professionals, working professionals, and how do they plan their career, mid-career professional, and all of that. So we, as I have been trained on, there are like in terms of delivery, there are different ways, right? You can do one-on-one coaching, you can do workshops or courses at universities. You can also do commercial workshops. So there are different people who are doing that. But yeah, this is the method of delivery for life design. So I hope this gives you an idea, right? Overall idea about what life design is and how life design is helping different people in the world. And yeah, if you have any specific questions,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, I have. So you have talked about University of Ohio, right?
yeah,
About
the
director
universe.
of life design. Then under them, there are different people, leaders who are doing the trainings and all those things to the students.
Right,
So let's bring it that particular side to India, right? So
right.
how does it work for India students, right? How
Mhm.
Indian students will be benefited from them? Let's say you are the professor or you are the trainer of life design with certain college. So what are the advantages this student will have if they go through this particular program or project?
Sure. So as I said, right. So when I got the certification, first certification in life design, I just did a small workshop to understand that whether it's gonna benefit these students or not. As I said, the feedback has been awesome. So students talked about career clarity, confidence in their careers, and they could better plan how could they design what next for them. And for them, they had been weighed down by a lot of dysfunctional beliefs that went away. So all this with are benefits which have come through by going through this process, these set of exercises, philosophy, understanding the philosophy of life design and all that. I mean, in fact, there is research which they have life design, right? Two people have done PhD on whether this life design is effective or not. The research has shown that these are the positive things which are coming out of it, like career clarity, confidence, that you can take initiative and you are in control of your own life. And this is how you plan it. What are your options? For example, right, one of the exercises we do in life design is what are your career paths? Everybody has multiple lives within them. So you just make a decision. You can go on a different career or a life path, right? So everybody has multiple such life paths or career paths. So how do you figure out what a career path or the life path is best for you? So we do what is called Odyssey journeys, for example. So we make them do 3 different career or life paths, and how does it feel for them to choose one path and go forward? And then they prototype, they come up with ideas about how do you prototype these so that they can test out these career paths, whether it's going to work for them. So I told you the example of the restaurant, right? So that's a prototyping experience. So you talk to the restaurant manager if you want. You actually go there and work in the restaurant to get that experience, whether this path is right for you or not. That. So all this is coming from the life design framework, and it has been researched. They have a life design lab where they continuously do this research and come up with new methods. And now they're coming up with a program, especially for people who are retiring. Then on the other end of the spectrum, they're coming up with a program for high school students. So it's like multiple things which are going on, right? So
Okay.
it's gonna help quite a number of people. Yeah.
So what are some of the misconceptions people have about life design and how do you address them?
Yeah. So in India, right? So when I have pitched for at universities, right? So I've said, hey, I'm a life design educator and it's coming from Stanford. And it's really, I mean, I have personally seen help this impacting individuals and helping them to figure out their life and career. So one question I get asked is this a soft skill? I'm like, oh, it's not about soft skills. It's not about personality. It's not like that. And they ask me, will this help people get a job? I don't know. It's about little more, something more than that. They will it'll help them figure out what is the kind of career they want, what is the kind of life they want to lead, and all of that. So this is because Indian education system has been so tuned to help people get jobs. We need to get out of it, right? So US is already doing that. I'm telling you, right? US, Europe, across these places, there are more than 450 universities who are already doing these kinds of programs, who are already doing very well, helping a lot of students. But in India, the mindset is about getting jobs, and it's still we are still one step back. So we need to get ahead of that kind of thinking, right? So if we want to compete with the rest of the world, right? So we need to start looking beyond this. Okay, just get a job mentality and all of that.
Yes, totally agree. So definitely people are not understanding the right purpose of this life
Correct.
design program. So what do you think, how we are going to solve that problem in India and how much time it will take as per
So I'm
your experience?
yeah. So I'm trying from my side. For example, I did a workshop at IT, right? So it's a university here. It's the Nitya Meenakshi Institute of Technology. I said, give me an opportunity to do a workshop. Then we will see how we want to take it forward. And the highest authority in the institution, they listen to the students firsthand. The students had such a wonderful feedback about the workshop, and they are convinced that, hey, this is going to help the rest of the university students as well. So right now I'm in talks with them to like do it for other students, other branches, other different years and all of that. So the framework, the life design framework, the processes, methods speak for itself, right? So once these people understand the benefits, then I'm sure, I mean, we are still at the nascent stage, but people are seeing the benefits already. So all it takes is one workshop like this to convince an entire institution, right? So yeah, that's the idea which I have. And of course, talking to people like you, once this podcast goes out and they listen to me speaking about life design and its advantages, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So the next question which I have for you, Junaid, is what are some of the practical steps someone can take to start applying life design principle in their own life?
Okay. So as I said, right, life design is not just for students, right? So it's about for working professionals, entrepreneurs, people who are probably stuck in their lives, who have had a career break. So it's gonna benefit all of these people to figure out what next for them, right? So I offer one-on-one coaching as well. So if you want some quick steps, right? So for example, for people who are stuck, who have had a career break, they want to get back to the mainstream. For them, it's about, I would suggest the easiest way is to prototype experiences. So let them try. There is no harm trying, right? So prototyping is like trying. I'm sure have heard of the concept of Kaizen as well,
Yes.
right? Kaizen is all about taking small steps. So in fact, one example is Kaizen says, if you want to exercise, right? And you have an exercise cycle at home, cycle, right? To exercise at home, or you have bought a cycle and you kept it there. Kaizen says, just go sit on the cycle like for 5 minutes every day. Don't even take the cycle out. Just sit on the cycle. That's a small step. Take the small step. Once that barrier of going and sitting on the cycle goes away, then the next step you will naturally take is you will take the cycle outside and do something about it, right? So you will get your exercise. So similar way, this concept about taking small steps can be applied to several areas of human life. So if you want to run a marathon, you don't start running the marathon, right? You take small steps, you build your resilience and all of that, and then take those. So similar way in life as well, right? Take these small steps. So do these prototyping experiences, talk to people. For example, tomorrow you want to say, I want to become a HR professional, right? So talk to a HR professional, see what is going on in his everyday life. What are the things he does every day, right? Calling people, like making a database of people who are looking for jobs, actively looking, who are, I mean, so all that. I personally don't know what exactly the life of a, but if you want to become a HR professional, you could talk to these people, right? Then you will be able to figure out whether this is right for you or not,
Yes.
or what is it that you need to learn. If you talk to HR professional, they'll also tell you how did you get into the field, right? So listen to their stories. What has been their career path? How did they get into this? And what are the difficulties they face? What excites them about the job? So having these conversations. And I'm sure once you start having these conversations, the HR professional will be able to guide this person enough, right? You can do this, take this step, learn about this. You can take the small course. So these are the things which the professional can help the person who wants to get into this field as well. So take those small steps, have these conversations, have those prototyping experiences, and I think that's the best advice I can give right now.
So I would also want to know one more thing, like, can you also share a personal example of how life design has helped you make a significant decision or let's say overcome any kind of challenge in your life?
Sure. So when I did that life design certification, right, the first certification. So I did the Odyssey journey prototype, or where we map out 3 journeys. Okay, for me, the first journey was about if I continue in the design field, as a user experience designer at Adobe or some other. So how would that journey look, right? So then the alternate option was if I do life design, right? If I get into life design full time, how would that journey look? And the third journey was about something else, right? If I didn't want to do this life design or something else, what would I be doing and all that? So I put in something about writing and movies and all that. So for me, right, among the three, life design journey was very exciting. right? So that path, if I take that path, for me, that was very exciting, right? I'm impacting a lot of people. So I knew, right? I knew at that point of time that maybe I wouldn't make as much money as I was doing, as I was getting as a user experience professional at Adobe, at Oracle, whatever. So, but still that journey was very exciting. I knew though I wouldn't make as much money, maybe I would still make enough money. And the worst part is I wouldn't be out on the streets, right? Begging or, so that was taken care of. So, but still this journey was very exciting. So I thought, okay, why don't I try it out, right? So I did those workshops. I felt happy. I thought I had made an impact on the lives of people. So that gave me immense happiness. And I mean, when I slept that night, it was very satisfying, right? So that journey was very exciting for me. So then that helped me make the decision, right? So that journey, helped, that prototyping those three journeys helped me make the decision about, okay, this is the path which I want to pursue. So that's how I made the decision.
Sure, Junaid. Let's say if someone need to connect with you, right? How someone can connect to you? How
Yeah, yeah.
someone
So
can reach
I'm
out to
on,
you?
yeah, please, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Junaid S.A.A. Or, I mean, you can write to me at asadjunaid@gmail.com. And yeah, we will have a discussion how I can help, how the life design framework can help you, and we can take it forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best
And
thing is connect
in
with me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
yes, and in terms of like charges wise, like is it different for students? Is it different for people working, people in between transition of jobs and other things?
Yeah. So
How do you charge them?
So we'll figure it out, right? So we'll figure that out. So there are students who have help for no charge at all, and at universities, right? The Stanford has mandated that we should be doing charging commercial rates, right? So we need to make it as a like, we shouldn't be charging too much. So that's the mandate. And of course, for the one-on-one coaching, that's a different thing altogether. So that's not my intent right now, is to be able to make an impact on human lives, to be able
Yes.
to help enable individuals to figure out. And this is a wonderful method and a process to be able to help individuals to figure their lives out. So I'm willing to help, and let's see how best we can work it out.
Sure. Great. So last two questions because we are almost on a
Sure,
time.
sure.
So what is the most valuable lesson you have learned throughout your diverse career and your life experiences, Junaid?
So for me, right, I live by one rule, right? So we have one life to live.
Yes.
We just have one life. We don't know about
Yes.
afterlife. We don't know about the
Yes.
next
Yes.
life.
Yes.
Nothing, right? So for me, how do I live it as best as and as fully as I can? It's actually a quote coming from a movie, actually. So it's like you have one life to live. It's actually your duty to live it as fully as possible, right? As best as you can. So I try to live by that philosophy, and I love the quote. And this is what I mean, it's one life, right? So if I can't say that, okay, I'll study engineering now, then I'll maybe study psychology in the next life. It wasn't like that. You have one life. Whatever you can want to do or you can do, you have to do it in this life itself. There's no other life which you can live. So just you make use of it as much as you can.
Sure. So last question for our podcast. So what is one of the piece of advice you would love to give our listener who feel stuck or unfulfilled in their current journey or situation?
So if you are feeling stuck, right? So people are, if somebody is telling someone, hey, you are stuck, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, that. So it is up to yourself, right? So you have to take the responsibility of your own life. So we all have been given enough intelligence. We all can generate options, generate ideas. All can think about, okay, what all I could do next, right? As long as you have the power to generate options, you can always try small things. Nobody's stopping you. It doesn't cost you money, right? So you can always try small things. You can always try these prototyping experiences, or you can talk to people. There will always be someone who will guide you along the way, right? Will always help you, will show you the path, as long as you make that effort to reach out and try things and all of that. So take those small steps. Life is all about, there's a science behind it. So if you take the small steps, right, the brain, it'll surpass the, what do you say, negative things in the brain, which is blocking your way. So if you want to take a big step, say tomorrow, I want to just jump into something else, brain will be like, okay, no, I can't do this. So as long as you just take a small step, say, I want to just try this. It's harmless. It doesn't cost too much money. Doesn't cost too much effort. My advice is just try those, take the responsibility and try small steps. Talk to people. So that's the best thing, advice which you can say.
Sure. Great. So thank you so much, Junaid. Definitely. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for sharing about your journey. Lots of things about life design as well. And along with that, you have given certain example of your personal life as well, how you have grown, how what kind of challenging path you have taken as well, why people should learn about life design as well. So definitely that was useful for everyone. And I believe that you are definitely going to make lots and lots of impact in most of the people's life. So all the best to you. Any last piece of advice for our listeners who are part of I'm Recruiter community?
Last piece of advice, I guess it's one life. We all have one life to live. live it as fully as possible. Life is not worth being unhappy and being down and being stuck, right? So it's just one life. I suggest you live it up and be happy, I guess. Yeah, that's all I have to say. And thank you so much, Praful, for giving me this opportunity to come on your podcast and talk about life design, about my startup and myself, and about my journey as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.